Hello and welcome to the Reapers. So we are back in our Hornet. So this now is technically it's still early access, but it is the early access that is released to the public. Today is BVR radar modes and usage. Very important one. You know, these modern fighters, these modern air-to-air fighters are built around the radar. This radar is Sherman. What model is that? I forget.
APG 73.
73. So Roger. So in terms of comparison, it's more modern than the F-15 radar that we're used to in Flaming Cliffs, but it has a shorter range, I believe. So that's what I've been told anyway. I should say at this point as well, two important things. One, we're not going to be looking at weapon information regarding the radar. That will come in the weapons videos. This is just looking at the actual radar itself. Okay. So first of all, we're going to turn on our radar. So as standard, it will be off. It's this knob down here. You can put it on standby and then operational. For it to work, you want it in operational. Right then, to be able to operate it, you're going to want to go master arm on and air-to-air mode. Whoopsie, and air-to-air mode. Okay, let me just sort my aeroplane out for a second. I've just chosen an AIM 7 just to get started. Right, so here is our radar screen down here. So I should show you how to get here. So you would naturally be in your main menu, which is that one, I think. And then we will go to radar attack there. And that is our radar screen. And it's very similar to the F-15 radar screen. Monochrome, a lot of the same functionality. Now, the second important thing to say is it's got lots of functionality around here. But about 80% of it is not working yet. It just hasn't been programmed into the Hornet. But don't worry, most of the important stuff is there, so you can use the Hornet to go fighting and shooting stuff as you've seen. So we're just going to go around and explain the different things. So this here is a top-down grid, if you like. Our aircraft would basically be there, and we're looking out that way. So if I look forwards out of my cockpit, we're looking that way. Okay.
Another thing to note, this is what's known as a B-scope. In other words, rather than actually forming a square out in front of your aircraft, that square essentially more performs a conical search from left to right around the sides of your aircraft.
That's exactly right. So if you want to visualize this in a top-down view, our aircraft is there. This shows it as a B-scope square, but what it actually is representing is what I call, let me just pause it, actually representing what I call a slice of cake. The slice of cake, we're at the corner of the slice of cake, and then it basically goes out from here, out in the distance in that direction, and then out in the distance to the right in that direction, and that forms a triangle, what I like to call my slice of cake. That slice of cake, the cake then gets stretched into a square. So imagine that it starts from there and goes to there, and then there and goes to there, and then across there. But the bottom sides where the aircraft have been stretched out to that side and to that side to form a square, and that's just how it represents it. So this square here is actually a representation of the slice of cake in front of you. And if we work on that analogy of the slice of cake as we go through, it's going to help understand what we're doing. So the first thing to point out is the line that's going left to right, which I don't know.
See, now I'm hungry.
Yes, indeed. So this scan line going left to right, I don't know if it has a proper name, but I call it a scan line. And that is the actual radar, because the actual radar pulsing out is just a very, very thin, narrow beam. It can't cover the whole slice of cake at once. It just goes left to right and left to right and left to right. I'm not sure how this particular actual radar works in this plane here, but a lot of them you can imagine an actual dish.
So, yeah, where that line represents the current direction that the beam is looking at, you'll see the line goes across the entire area, and of course it's looking from your aircraft upwards, so don't assume that means it's scanning the whole sky in front of you.
That's exactly right, yeah. So just imagine it's scanning left to right in our slice of cake. And our slice of cake also has a thickness. It doesn't go all the way down and it doesn't go all the way up. It's just a thin thickness. If you imagine kind of like from here to about there. So that's very important when thinking about how the radar works, right? So we've mentioned that the scan line goes left to right, and only when that scan line touches a target will it be illuminated. Okay, so that's that. Right, let's start going over some other functionality. So we've got lots of terminology around the B-scope here. So we're going to turn it on and go over the terminology. First of all is the top left. Now, I'm not sure of the name of this function. I guess it would be the bar function. And you can see I can change here 1 bar, 2 bar, 4 bar, or 6 bar. Again, I'm not even sure it's actually called a bar. This is just what I called it, and it's what I've always known it as. So now imagine our thin slice of cake that's going from here to here, and that's the area that we're scanning. Well, we can add more slices of cake. We can add an extra one up there, and an extra one up there, and another one down there, and another one down there. In this case, I'm referring to them as bars. So if I've got it set to 1B, I'm just scanning this one thin slice of cake. I'm not sure of the actual size or the actual angle of that slice of cake, because it's different in different aircraft, you know. But yeah, so if we wanted to set it going again, we can set it to 2 slices of cake, 4 slices of cake, 6 slices of cake. So in this case, 6 slices of cake is a really thick slice. So scanning all the way from down there to all the way up there. Now it does it in stages, and we can see here are the 6 stages, and we can see our what I call our elevation carrot there. You can see moving between the different stages. So we've got slice 6 there, we've got slice 1 there, we've got slice 2 there, we've got slice 3 there. So every time the scan line gets to a different azimuth, or a different left to right, it goes up or down another slice or another bar. Okay, hope that makes sense. Have you got any other thing to add to that, Sherman, to help understand that?
If you see in some of the dev videos, basically the radar is represented as almost a conical square of energy that's being shot out and flung across the sky. The best way to think about it is a flashlight. If you go walk into a dark room and turn off the lights, use your flashlight and scan from left to right at certain heights, you'll only be able to pick up information where the light is reflecting back to you.
Roger that. Now take note that if you're going to use this mode on anything other than 1B, it takes time. Look how it's taking time to scan from each layer. So that's one layer, and that's the next layer down, that's the next layer down. So you've got to factor that in your mind, that it's only scanning at that particular elevation when that carrot is shown on the elevation. So have a think about that. That's the best way I can think of just explaining it. It does take a while to get used to. Yeah, so have a think about that. That's that function. Next is the SIL function, so that's silent. It's essentially on silent mode. I don't fully understand this, but as I understand, it's the basic BVR mode. BVR meaning further away than 10 miles that we're searching is going to be silent. There will be more modes introduced as the radar gets developed, you know, and more features are added. But for the moment, it's still silent or close range ATM.
Right. So to explain, what's supposed to happen is you click the silent button, and the button will become boxed. The radar will stop scanning and will just sit in standby mode. Another indicator will be on the bottom left of the radar. You will see something that looks like the iron cross. In that one, they call it the iron cross, but yeah.
It was
when in silent mode, the active option is available in the top left corner of the display, which replaces the target aging indicator, which is something we'll talk about later.
Good.
When pressed, the radar will conduct one complete scan/frame based on the current radar settings and properties. Once the scan is complete, it will return to silent mode. So basically, literally, you send out one radar scan and then it returns back to standby.
Hey, fun. Okay, fine. Next, we've got arrays. So you push that. I'm not sure if it's actually working in this version. We will test, and that clears off any essentially any contacts that are in memory, any aircraft contacts that are in memory, doesn't it? It just clears it all up until the next scan.
Yes. So basically, the radar keeps a short history of picked up contacts, so that's otherwise, basically, if the radar didn't do that, then they would vanish as soon as the beam left them.
Yep.
So pressing erase is useful if you need to clear up targets that are cluttering the scope.
Roger, imagine if you're in commercial airspace and you've got 40 contacts up here. It would just be an absolute mess, so you can erase them. But that's fine.
Or alternatively, you've just managed to get close enough to burn through the jammer and you want to clear the jam information.
Mm-hmm. Now, we haven't tried that, so we'll try that later on to see if it's working. Next, now, the B-scope is kind of designed in a way to fly your aircraft from. So you can quite happily, when doing BVR mode, and this is what I'll be doing when I do it with my F-15, I fly the aircraft from here. I don't look out the window because, well, there's no really any need to. All our information's in here. So we've got our attitude here, so it shows where wings level at the moment, and we're going to be up pitch or down pitch. It shows our path indicator here. It shows our heading there. It shows our altitude there. And it shows our speed there, and it might even be a Mach there, 0.61 is it? Yep, it's even got a Mach. So everything you need to fly the plane is here, because essentially you could be sat here for 5 or 10 minutes just staring at this scope, and you will be, and there's no reason, like I said, you don't need to look out the window at all. You can do it all from here. That's quite often how I fly my F-15 for many minutes at a time. So all that's there. Now we're going to head right. We've got our diamond. So basically, you can't really use the radar. You can't move this, what we call target designator about, which we'll use in a second, until we've got our diamond. I'm not sure of the name of it. I just know it as the radar diamond. To get the diamond up, you have to go R arm on and air to air mode on.
The correct name is the TDC control indication. When the radar display is selected for TDC control, this diamond symbol is displayed at the top right corner of the display. Selecting the radar for TDC control is done by moving the sensor control switch to the right. Note that the radar is normally placed on the right DDI.
Okay, that's fine. Right, next is my favourite. It's the scan. It's the display range. So let me unpause. I can go up or I can go down like so. It's changing that number there, and that number there is the miles. Basically from that line there to that line there, so from where we are to the edge of our display range. Now note, it's not changing the actual scan, because what we're doing is we're sending radiation out. That's our radar, and that radiation goes and literally travels to the end of the universe. It never stops traveling, so we can't change the range of that, but it's the range of our display. That's what it's actually changing. So we can look 40 miles ahead, we can look 80 miles, 160 miles. Personally, for general acquisition, I like 80 miles. It just seems to work best for me, but I guess everyone has their own way of doing it. And remember our slice of cake that we're scanning, it doesn't affect the thickness of the cake. That will stay the same. It's purely how far basically our B scope is looking. So that's that. Okay, we go down. We've got our SET. Is that reset, Sherman?
Yes.
You know what? It doesn't matter. This is reset.
Yes, it does.
This is reset, but there's no point in going over this functionality. It's not here. It doesn't work at the moment. So
as far as you've bothered checking, basically the reset will reset the radar to its default parameters per the selected weapon at the time.
Roger, so we've got to check that out as well then. Okay, that's fine. Data, let's try data.
This brings up the data subpage, as you can see.
So it gives you that option, that option, that option, that option, that option, that option, that option. Again, as far as we're aware, nothing is programmed in here yet. Would you agree with that?
I've got the data page here. So in the data page, on the top right, you have a number which is target aging, which will determine the amount of time a target symbol remains on the radar display after contact is lost. It's the number. This is representing the number of seconds when silent mode is selected. This field is replaced with the active indication. Color. Select the radar display to be presented in monochrome or limited use of 3 colors, and by limited we mean very limited. Latent track while scan, which is sitting about 2 buttons below color, provides a basic track while scan function while in radar range while scan mode. With LTWS enabled, placing the TDC over a target symbol will display launch and steer track symbols. However, no shoe cue is displayed. LTWS target will have its airspeed in Mach displayed to the left and its altitude in angels to the right. Additionally, its range and closure information is displayed along the right tactical border.
Alright, and I'm going to double check that none of them work. Watch this. If they worked, a box would appear around them when I click it. No. 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 So I'm pretty sure we don't have that functionality. Declutter. Oh yes, declutter does work. Sorry, we've got well, we think so. We've got all it does is take away some of the display to declutter it, like you can do with the HUD. You can have and you can have different levels. So non-declutter, declutter 1, declutter 2. That does appear to work at the moment, so that's good. Okay, we're going to go back to normal. Next, we've got Chan. I'm going to check. I don't think that there's anything at the moment. No, you can't click on it. Just remind us what Chan does very quickly.
So channel actually sets the radio channel. The channel in question is represented on the top left, just under the operation text.
Mm-hmm. So we've got Charlie 11 at the moment. So, let's try that.
Yeah, so it's basically set your RF channel.
No, that doesn't go at the moment. Okay, so that's fine. That goes back to the main menu. This is an important one, your Azimuth range, I guess you call it. So, now we go back to our slice of cake analogy, which is a really good one. So, our slice of cake goes from here outwards and there outwards, and that gives us an angle there, an azimuth angle. And we can change that angle, which is great because it's a bloody useful thing to be able to change. So, let's have a play. So, at the moment it's at 140 degrees. That's a wide angle. And look how long...
That's the maximum angle.
Look how long it takes for our scan line to cover that. Now let's change it. 20. So it's now only 20 degrees. A very thin slice of cake we're scanning in now. Now the bonus of that is look how quickly our refresh rate is. Our line can scan very, very quickly, and that essentially gives more scanning resolution. You can pick up a target. You know, it saves seconds. It saves you 5 seconds that it takes to scan back and forth, or however long it is. But you can only see within a thin 20 degree slice of cake. And then you've got everything in between. You've got 40, 60, 80, and back up to 140. Majority of the time, you're going to want 140 because it gives you a maximum scan distance. If there's an imminent threat and you need high refresh rate and you know roughly where the target is, if someone says it's at 090, then you can put it down to 20 or 40, get a really quick refresh rate, and get it on him because you know where he is. So that's how I explained that. Okay, we've got Mach and speed there. We've got mode on the bottom left, German. Let's see if that works.
So it says here in the docs not functional for the early access, but what it will do is it will cycle the radar modes between range while scan, VS, or track while scan mode.
Roger, so we can see we've got range while scan mode at here, which is what I would call our kind of default mode. We would be able to click mode and go to track while scan, which is a different mode, but I'm going to go into it now because we'll do a video on that. And what's the other one? RS, VS, vertical scan?
VS probably stands for vertical scan or visual. However, I am not going to make a statement either way. I genuinely do not know at this time.
Chairman is very careful about what he says nowadays. Right, Captain Knott. So this here is the interleaving. Oh God, how are we going to explain this? So we send this radiation out in frequencies, in hertz or megahertz, gigahertz, whatever, in frequencies, and a target coming at you forwards, i.e. a target that's hot, will see better with a different type of frequency to a target that's cold or i.e. away from us. So
right.
So we can change our interleaving or our frequency depending on whether we think the hostile is going away from us or towards us or even side to side. It's on high at the moment, high.
So what Cap's referring to, the correct name is the pulse repetition frequency, commonly referred to simply as PRF. Pressing the button will select between medium, high, and interleaved. Medium PRF minimizes quote-unquote blind zones, reduces false targets, better all aspect detection, but has less detection range. Remember, this is a digital filtering radar, so rather than seeing any unfiltered data, you're going to just see shorter ranges. High PRF has greater range, but is typically inferior at detecting targets in the low and medium aspect. Low and medium aspect meaning in terms of coming towards you, they are either flying horizontally or away, which we refer to as flanking or cold.
And if you're wondering why this PRF is a thing, it's due to the pulse Doppler effect. All of these radars are based on something called the pulse Doppler effect, which you can research on your own. Right, there is radar pry. I don't think this is implemented.
It's one.
No.
Let's see. It is, it is not yet mentioned in the documentation.
That's fine, so it's not implemented. Right, so that is our B-scope. Well, almost done. We've got Opera up here, so that's telling you what mode the radar's in, and you can confirm that it's operational. If you put it to standby, it would say standby. Okay, next is our target designator. Now, you move this, first of all, you have to have your diamond on. I'm just going to call it a diamond. To move your target designator about, you have to have your diamond on, so that's fine. And then you have to set your controls up. They're called throttle controller select or something very similar to that. Throttle controller. So I'll just show you. They're called throttle designator controller, up, left, down and right. Simple as that. Set it up to your joystick or set it to your keys, up to you, and I'll show you moving it about. So you can move it about like that. Now, I've got to very briefly explain what those two numbers are. They're incredibly important. So, this is going to be hard to explain. So our B-scope is currently set up for 40 miles. So that level there is 0 miles. That's where we are. That level there is now 10 miles. That's 20 miles. That's 30 miles. And that at the top there is 40 miles. We can change that by changing the range, but that's how it is at 40 miles. So let's move it to 20 miles. So I'm going to unpause. I'm going to move it to 20 miles there. So it's now at 20 miles range. So what it's saying is, remember our slice of cake, very important. It's saying at 20 miles away, where I've set that target designator, the upper portion of your slice of cake scan zone is at 27,000 feet. The lower, the lower kind of edge of your piece of cake scan zone is Angel's 13, is 13,000 feet. Now, if we move it to 10 miles away, you can see it changes because it's moving it closer. It comes closer towards the slice of cake, and therefore the numbers get smaller. As it goes outwards, further away along the piece of cake, it gets bigger. When I say bigger, the upper number, which is the height, gets higher, and the lower number gets lower because we're going further out along a slice of cake, which is forever expanding from the jet. It comes from, like I said, from a torch, like a torch here from the nose, and expands as it goes outwards. So that's what those numbers are. If the aeroplane that you're trying to find is not between those two heights at that range, you will not find it. So at 30 miles, where I've got it here, if the target is at 35,000 feet, i.e. above the top range, top line of your piece of cake, you will not find him. And that's where the last thing comes in, which is controlling your radar elevation. Absolutely essential. It's something you have to do. So I'm going to show you how I do it. Stand by. I'm going to unpause. I'm going to set to 80 miles because that's where I like to be. And I like to have it set 40 miles. So I've got 80 miles there. That is the 40 line mark there. So at that slice of cake intersection at 40 miles, it can see from 46,000 feet down to a theoretical minus 9,000 feet. Okay, right, so now I may want to change it. Let's say I know that my target, I know it's a bit silly, but let's say my target is at 60,000 feet. Well, then I'm going to actually aim my radar up, change the elevation up and down. That's something you will do. That's something you will do manually. We could do it technically by changing this 6B here, or stand by. One thing I should say, remember we talked about this B here, it's adding layers to the cake up and down, or bars, so you can, here's a good proof of it. If you change it to 1B, you get a very small difference between the top and the bottom of the cake. If we enlarge it up to 6B, you get a very large, because it's stacking layers of cake on top of each other. Okay, now I don't want all that, I just want my 2B. My 2B is what I want. So I want to use my 2B, and I know he's up at Angel 60. Now I'm going to aim the radar up. So you're going to use radar elevation control up and down. You'll use this in all of your aircraft with radar. Absolutely essential. You'll be doing this all the time. You'll never stop doing this. I'm going to aim it up. Stand by as I try and, yep. And you can see I'm moving this carrot here. I'm doing it very badly. But I am so, whoops, I had to keep my finger on it, that was the problem. Yep, you see, there, like that. So I've moved it up, there. Pause there, I've moved it up, and now it's telling me I'm scanning between, too far, stand by. It's got a bit of a slow update. So I've moved it up there, and it's now telling me at 40 miles, it's scanning between 62,000 feet and 51,000 feet. That would get my target. That was a bit ugly, example, but it gives you an idea of what we're doing with our radar slice of cake. Right, that's it. Let's go and find a target, lock him up, show locking, and then we'll move on to the ACM. Stand by. Right, we're turning on to where we think the bad guys are, and already you can see we've picked stuff up. Now, as an example of the radar elevation, let's drag it down into, I'll drag our slice of cake down into the ground. You can see I'm dragging it down, right down there. So our radar cone is now pointing down into the ground, and you can see the radar blips disappear. So exactly what we'd expect. We'll move it back to neutral. So at 40 miles away from us. We're scanning between Angels 12,000 feet and 23,000 feet, and we're picking up all these targets, look. So you can see where they are. So they're azimuth left and right, as you can see how far they are away from the center line. So if they're on the center, then they'll be directly in front. If they're to the left, then they'll be to the left. And how far they are up this B-scope tells their range. So that one there's at about 75 miles, that one there's at about 55 miles. If it was right down here, it would be about 5 miles. Yeah, so simple as that. Now you can we don't have this functionality yet, but in the final version we'll be able to interrogate these to find out whether they're friendly or foe. But for the moment, in the current version, everything is shown as foe, so be very careful about what you shoot. Now all you have to do to lock that target, very simple. I'm going to unpause this. I'm going to move my target designator over here. I'm going to press my depress, and I'm just going to show you quickly which button that is. Stand by. It was throttle, designator, controller, depress. That is what I call lock or unlock. And it's technically not the correct term. And we've essentially locked that target. Now what you'll see is that our scan beam is no longer scanning left and right and left and right. It's now locked onto him. It's just locked into that one target, range while in our range while track mode. Range while scan mode, and it's given us information, so it's no longer showing the others because it's purely looking at him. Imagine our little torch is focused right on him, and there he is. You can see the little box in the HUD. So it's no longer looking for the others. With a track while scan mode, we will be able to look for the others, but that's a different mode we haven't got yet. It shows us the vector of the aircraft. You can see it starts there and he's heading towards us. You can see because his vector is pointing down. You can see his height there. He's Angel 6.4, 6,200 feet. You can see his, I believe that's his Mach there. He's at Mach 0.4. This caret here and this number here is our closing speed. So that's the speed, my speed added to his speed. That's the speed that we're closing at basically. This number here is showing our altitude differential. So I'm at 15,000. He's at 6.4 thousand. So the difference is minus 8.5. 8,500 roughly. That's the difference in our altitudes. So we've got all that information about him: his speed, his angle, his azimuth, his altitude, his difference in altitude. We've also got some terminology in the HUD. We've got a box here showing where he is. We've got sorry, that's my speed there. We haven't got a speed on the HUD. We've got the closing speed. We've got his range here from us, 51.4 miles. There's also a lot of targeted information. This targeting box here, but a circle here, sorry, but we're going to go through that in the weapons videos because that's more to do with that. That is the majority of our BVR radar functionality. So have a play around with that, get used to it, go in a public server, lock some stuff up, or go in a private server, lock some stuff up, play around looking at all this information, see how far you can turn away from it before you lose the lock, things like that. In a later video we'll show how this translates to firing weapons, but otherwise that's all covered. Anything you want to add to BVR non-weapons based radar, Sherman?
Not at this time.
Lovely. Right, I hope that's helpful and I hope you enjoy it. Otherwise we'll see you later.